program, the discussion aisle, and today we are discussing the World Environment Day 2024 with the theme that is our land, our future, and how we can conserve our future, and how we can maintain our land, and of course how we can restore our old ecosystem, our biodiversity, and how we can be friendly to nature, to our environment, so that we could have all the resources that we want. And of course, we are right now facing the main challenges of water scarcity. We are facing deforestation, and right now we are also facing some food insecurity. And how we can overcome these challenges, we have our expert in our studios, and of course we are going to know that what are the main challenges that Pakistan is going through, and what are the key stakeholders, who are the key stakeholders, and what are their ideas that they will come up with, and of course they will have a solution to overcome all these situations. And today we have Mr. Faiz, he is from Ministry of Climate Change and Environmental Coordination, and Dr. Ejaz Ahmed, the renowned environmentalist. And today we are going to have their says that how they are contributing, and they will have ideas to contribute from our society, and of course a contribution from our government either. Coming to you, Mr. Faiz, as you were talking about that you have just plant many trees, there was a number of billions and not millions, and besides that we are still facing that in Asia we are the country which have less amount of trees. What are the main challenges, as you have mentioned before some, but what are the main challenges that you have faced during the implementation or upscaling of this Green Pakistan initiative? And especially I just want to know that how the societies they could become a part of this big initiative.
Thank you. Let me just spend, and one thing we should realize that Pakistan naturally is a country where most of the areas lies under the arid and semi-arid areas. So nature has its own mechanism and rules. So you cannot, grow plant everywhere with ease, right? So, secondly, the if you look at the plantation and the scenario of the Pakistan and in the trees, as I mentioned earlier, that Pakistan has a different scenario. We need to plant more, but in addition to that, we have also to use these plants and resources for survival of the population.
Exactly.
Now we have, I just give you a few major issues. Population. The maturing population of Pakistan is the biggest issue for us. Then the dependence on this particular population on the resources.
Okay.
We don't have access to electricity, we don't have access to natural gas, and we don't have other technologies in the rural areas. And most of the people, they are using the natural resources for their day-to-day life. So that's another issue. The third issue is the investment. In this now for the last 1 decade, even in the NDC, the National Determined Contribution, Pakistan has communicated that we will be contributing by 2030, 1 million hectare of forestry cover. And then the efforts of the conservation organization like WWF, IUCN, AKF, PPF, and all those organizations, and particularly the government institutions, the forestry departments, the wildlife department, they are contributing in terms of reviving the forestry resources. But the scale is too high. We need to focus on those areas where we can actually contribute. It's very easy to say that we'll be planting this much trees.
Exactly.
Even for my program, I personally consider it's a very ambitious program. Like Chinese are planting, the same amount of plants in 50 years. How can you expect, like in 5 years and 10 years, you plant like 10 billion trees?
Exactly. With the arid climate.
With the arid climate, naturally.
Okay.
So the idea is that they say that a journey of 1,000 miles starts from a single step, and Pakistani government has been taking that step with very ambitious target. And I'm glad to mention that this 2.12 billion plants, this is only one aspect, but the change in the attitude, you have asked for the benefits. I've seen a clear change in the attitude of the people, not only in here, but in the local communities, in the institution, organization, even armed forces. We've been meeting them, and they are actively participating in Gilgit-Baltistan, in Bunji areas, in AJK, and even northern Punjab. They're planting tree side by side. And the Ministry of Climate Change and the Green Pakistan program is providing, the plant sapling and the technical support to them. So one benefit is the change in the regime. Secondly, my belief is that unless Dr. Shah was talking about the biodiversity, and each species, in addition to its natural contribution, has a price tag.
Agree.
And if you communicate and if you translate that in the economic terms to the local communities, people are really caring of it. You just put the example of Mahor. Myself and Dr. Shah was before the program discussing that when we started work in Gilgit-Baltistan, people used to sell Mahor, meat 50 rupees a kg between Gilgit and Skardu at Dambudas. But now this conservation program of sport hunting, which is a tool for conservation, people are taking it as a hunting program, but we said it's a sport hunting, and it's basically a conservation program contributing to the population. The government of Pakistan is offering limited number of 12 animals, and those animals.
These are quotas from CITES.
From CITES, this convention, International Trade of Endangered Species, we take approval of them, and those animals which are at the end of their natural life, and they are offered, and they're like $150,000 minimum one animal is generating, and even that money is going to feed back to support the conservation. Local communities are spending that money on employing their own guards, wildlife conservation activities, irrigation channel, and even they're sending their students for environmental education. So this is one aspect, and now a time has come that we are even shifting from the sport hunting to the weaving, wildlife weaving. You go to Gilgit-Baltistan, I'll name the areas like Karambar, like Khyber, KVO, SKB. You can pay like 200, 300 rupees a tourist for people, and they'll show you the animal. They are also in a position of now starting photography. So these all are the impact of the program, and it takes years of investment of the professional, the government of Pakistan, and the organization. Now coming to the issues, we were talking to the local communities. It's hard to convince in the communities that why would they plant. If you ask a local community representative that you plant a forest tree, they straight away ask, why should I plant a forest tree? And then we realize that planting a tree is beneficial for the environment. They also see, but we also need to focus on those trees which are beneficial for them.
Agree.
And due to this point, the government of Pakistan, under the Prime Minister directives, we are now including 10% fruit plants, and that has an edge for us that we don't need to support the maintain the plant for, because the local people, they see the benefits coming, so they are just conserving the trees by themselves. Similarly, in areas sometimes our financial flow, the money is coming from the federal government. 50% of the money is also contributed by the 4 provinces, and then AJK and GB, they are fully financed by the PSDB program from the federal government. So the financial flow and sometimes the procedures are not in time. So the delay is there, and it's delaying the implementation program. And the lastly is the ambitious program. If you the government machinery, we have limited resources, human resources, and in addition to the government, the state land, the private land, you need to convince the local people. You need to draft an agreement with them, and you ensure that the benefits are going to them. So it takes some time. So we are this is basically a learning from us, and as part of the monitoring of the WWF, IUC, and FAO, we are taking these issues and we are feeding back into the implementation process.
You're so right. And coming to Dr. Ejaz Ahmed, as we have just discussed that biodiversity is just on the edge, and we have many challenges that we are trying to cope out, and we are trying to just meet out those challenges. What do you think? Rapid urbanization, that is a key point. Besides that, what are the key challenges that you are dealing with, or you have been so successful so far that you have just spread that idea and people are working, or even the stakeholders, whether they are government or from the private organizations or private institutions, they are just working upon that? What will you say?
Well, I think the issue related to urbanization is a massive issue.
Agree.
There are two basic reasons. One is that most of these the urban areas they are going through unplanned development and compromising on some of the very important ecosystems. I'll give you example of Lahore Ravi urban development project, which is at the edge of Ravi river. Although there is very little water in it, but then the ecosystem is very productive. When we talk about Ravi or river beds, basically we are talking about a food basket. We're talking about agriculture produce which is very high because it brings a lot of nutrients as part of the soil. So the urban development is very unplanned and ultimately resulting in ecosystem degradation, resulting in situation which are not very not only environmental friendly but human friendly as well, because people have to suffer, people have to live in those areas which are not suitable. They don't get that kind of facilities in the form of electricity, schooling, health, etc., etc. So wherever they feel like they just go and apply. Those where there is a planning, there are all the facilities available. People are just having a good life. But majority of the cases, because mostly people, over a period of time, we have seen that the urban population of Pakistan was 30, 33, 35%. But now that has gone up to 40 to 45%.
Right.
So that is a huge increase, which basically means that those who move from rural to urban, since the only profession they mostly they have was agriculture, so they don't have that kind of professionalism. So they end up in doing some jobs which or maybe work as a laborer. So they don't get that kind of support which is required in order to support their family. So the issue is becoming more and more. So there is, of course, there are solutions. Green urban development is one aspect where you can actually look into what are the issues related to waste management. Waste management is a huge urban issue. Water is another big issue because the water table in most of the cities in Pakistan is going down. In Islamabad, 15-20 years ago, you could get water, underground water for any bore or for your house at 100 feet or maybe 150 feet. But now it has gone up to 400 to 600 feet down. And in certain areas, water is not even available.
Exactly.
So massive extraction of water is resulting in a situation where you end up paying to the water tanker. So the large amount of money is going to those tankers. And there is a mafia also. I mean, I don't want to go into that detail, but then there are, all the tanker mafias in many urban cities, in Karachi, in Lahore, in Islamabad, etc. CDA, the Capital Development Authority, who is supposed to actually provide these services, are only providing up to 60 to 70% of the people because they don't have that kind of capacity, they don't have that kind of resources, they don't have water. So they are trying their best to get water from Khanpur Dam or Singli Dam, but again there is a limit to that. So if there is no rain in Islamabad for last 4 to 5 weeks, so ultimately the water table is going to go down. And then it is the summer, hot summer months, so the need for water is more and more. So there is a complicated system. The green urban development is something which we can look when we talk about waste. So the waste is again another menace. Actually, it's a huge problem. The plastic waste, or most of the waste we have is a wet waste, 45 to 50%, which can be used for composting. And the institute I work for, Institute of Urbanism, with the help of U.S. Embassy, came up with some solution, and another organization, SOLF, They came up with solution where like you can go for water harvesting, rainwater harvesting, water recharge. So PCRWR, which is a government organization, has many such small initiatives where you can actually help in conserving water and in actually improving the aquifer in certain areas. And there are some examples in Kachnar Park, in near Shifa Hospital. They have a certain setup where the water table has improved because of the recharge wells, because of the recharging capacity that they have actually come up with. Similarly, for waste is being used as a resource. So if you compost, that is a very good fertilizer that you can use for at least for lawn, for your like indoor plants, or even at massive scale you can look into that. There are actually some provisions related to making energy out of waste, but it's a bit expensive. It has not been tried yet, but I think there is a potential. In Sweden, 90 to 95% of their waste is being used for power generation. They actually buy waste from neighboring countries and make electricity. So I think if you see similarly green urban development, there are various options which are available. But I think it can happen if there is a planned urban development. If there is no planned development, so ultimately you will end up in like losing your beautiful ecosystems. Just give you example of Islamabad. There are many water streams, water channels, beautiful. I remember in my childhood time, I used to like go to school and see all the fish, and even you can see to the bottom of the stream. It was so clean water. But now, due to this unplanned development, that all the sewage is actually flowing in there. All the plastic bags are just part of it. So that ecosystem has gone. So ultimately, that has created a problem. If it goes through some urban development schemes, some plan, you will be having a very positive impact, even if we have more people. I'll give you just one example. Sure. In Karachi, I worked there for about 10 years or so. Government of Sindh, IUCN, WWF, fishing community, they actually invested a lot on mangrove plantation in the Karachi coastal area. The Indus Delta, from Katy Bandar up to Sandspit. So there was a lot of effort, and it's a success story. The mangrove plantation in Pakistan is a success story, whereas in generally in the world, it is not that successful because of various developmental schemes. And mangroves play a very important role. In many, it is a nursery ground for shrimps and fisheries. Protection from cyclones, etc., etc. There are many benefits of mangroves. So what happened is that all these organizations were growing mangrove 15-20 years, and then the mangrove cover increased. One good day, that area was allotted to some private power company. So all the effort that was done has gone to waste. So that is actually due to lack of any urban development plan. If there is a plan, you can say that okay, this area is for afforestation, and religiously follow it, and that should not be allotted to any. And this area is for industrial development. This area is for. Exactly. So if you don't have that kind of plan, you are going to actually lose all that.
Exactly.
Dr. has also brought a very good an important point that this accelerated migration from the rural areas to the cities.
Exactly.
And I can see these issues can be also an opportunity for us. Let me quote an example that under this program, we have helped local communities access to 1.42 million green jobs, man months, and even men and women from the local areas. So if you create an opportunity for the local people to work there, so they would not migrate to to the city.
Exactly.
And secondly also the women, most of the under the program, the government of Pakistan has communicated the federal government to the provinces that most of the private nursery growers are women. So they are growing the women, the nurseries plants, and then you buy it under buyback mechanism. Now coming to the urban planning, and Dr. Sohaib has brought a very important aspect. Like for example, Islamabad. I was just thinking that maybe the government of Pakistan, or can take an example, the CDA may think of that, approving the map of the residential area. They can make it mandatory that the honorable plant like this much or this number of trees, even as a part of the but we have one opportunity that those developed countries which have gone and have done some mistakes and now they are irreversible. So we can learn from them in the mountainous areas. And I think Pakistan has been blessed by Almighty with so much resources.
No doubt.
If you go to the peripheries, it's amazing country, and I think this nation has a strength. But we need to gather our resources and efforts together. I can see in my circle, and Dr. will bear me out, that all these senior conservation professionals, they are going even from their own time, and in the universities they are just going for popular lecture to communicate it. And this time the government of Pakistan has a clear mandate of investing in the environmental conservation. And I think the situation is quite improved. It's not as bad as communicated in the media.
You're much right, exactly. And Dr. coming to you, just want to know that we have seen this term, that climate resilient infrastructure and the climate resilient atmosphere. What is this term all about, and how we can develop that?
Well, I think this is not a new term. If we see traditionally, this is something which was happening historically. I was watching a small clip somebody shared yesterday that in Iran there are these wind traps. So they have constructed the buildings in that direction where normally during the summer the wind comes from, and then that wind actually enters into the through the chimneys, through the structure that they build. They enters into the house and it travels down, and then it moves outward.
It's continuing the whole house.
So the whole house actually the temperature is down, say 3 to 5 degrees. It is good enough for any heating system. Similarly, if you go to the northern part of Pakistan, the orientation of houses and the material historically, that we see the sugar fort or the
according to the natural environment.
They are according to the natural environment, and then according to the need of that area. So that traditions have gone, and similarly, from Middle East, from Yemen, Iran, even in Balochistan, these wind traps were found in old houses. So the tradition has changed. Now we are going into the modern, like in Lahore, if you are constructed a building with all the glasses, so actually you are. I don't know whether I can do stupid, but you are fool, because Lahore in summer, only maybe 3 months of winter or pleasant weather, but then it's mainly summer of about 5 to 6 months, and then if you are suffering, you have to do this air conditioning of that place.
Right.
That again makes your energy bill higher, and also the local environment, microclimate also changes. If you see, in Islamabad on Blue area, high-rise buildings, 6-story building, 10-story building, and each floor has maybe 8 to 10 offices, and in each office there is 1 or 2 air conditioning, which keeps the internal environment cool, but the external environment is very hot. And then it creates the heat islands, small heat islands, and if you pass through those buildings, you will feel the heat. Internally they are cool, But I think there is a problem that we don't have those building codes which are in the process. That's what I heard, that the building codes are in the process where they have identified certain, like which kind of material should be used in where and what direction and etc. Similarly, now with the passage of time, the construction material is also evolving. And I think with this solar electricity facility, people have started, like depending on this solar cells. Unfortunately, there are some issues related to net metering.
NESPAC has, they have the approved building codes for
Yes,
for the
it
country.
has been approved, or it was in
I think
discussion.
yeah.
They were in draft form, but then yes, unless we have those building codes and implement it in a true spirit, as you were talking about the per house need to plant a tree or so.
Yeah.
I think CDA is thinking on that.
Okay.
That this size of house should have at least one plant or two plants or whatever. They have already enforced the rule for rainwater harvesting. So if your house is like 400 to 500 square yard, so then you are supposed to have a tank for rainwater harvesting.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we don't have at the moment we don't have expertise available or the services service provider available. But I think with the passage of where there is a need, there are ways people will actually. We have given grant to one of the students she's now actually doing hydroponic, rooftop gardening, as well as she's collecting rainwater from the house, and then that is being used for different washing, etc. purposes. So there are certain technologies, there are certain practices which are available and being applied, but we need to do a lot more.
We need to do a lot more.
Well, this resilience is basically the strength of the community, that how they can bear out, the impact of the climate change. If you look at the entire, the climate change in the perspective, so the government of Pakistan has developed an adaptation plan. Basically, it's adaptation, mitigation, and resilience. Adaptation is basically comparatively easier task. So you can plan your and that is again taken into its mainstream in all the sectors, agriculture, forestry, and the most important, the water. What is life? So we can, and government of Pakistan has this adaptation plan, and there are sessions being held on that, and all the organizations, there's in a picture of there. Then you have mitigation. Mitigation is to reduce the already impacts of climate change, which is comparatively a bigger job and hard. It requires resources. And coming to resilience, unfortunately, in the peripheries, in the mountain areas, in the rural areas, people are more aware about the impact of the climate change, and even
because they face it
exactly
daily basis,
and they are doing it because they are facing the impact.
For
They're doing it for the survival. Now you're talking about like the CDA one plant. It's a good idea. Even if you think of that, one plant cannot make a big difference, although it's such a difference, but it will communicate the importance of the the resources, the plant to the people that it's really required for your survival. And also you brought a very good point of students. This environmental conservation sector is also a neglected sector. Few universities have now started this environmental education master degrees, and we have the only Pakistan Forest Institute which are offering the forestry degrees. Now several other universities are even giving a forestry degree. We are, as a part of the program, in the next 4 years, we are providing space for 120 master students to come and work with us for 6 months on payment as intern. So you, and I remember Dr. myself, you were working for one program in 95 to 2006, that was called Mountain Areas Conservancy Program. And under that program, I had internalized 60 students, and now half of the people are working as conservators and even both in the AJK and the rest of the people. So it's the point that you provide opportunities to the people. Similarly, for the local community, There are activists, government of Pakistan together with organization have started this award program. So those people in the mountains, in Sindh, in the mangroves, in Balochistan, they have their enhanced contributions. So they have been, their services have been recognized. People don't, cash is also important, but people are really, they want that their contributions should be recognized. So these all are the points, and I think it's in this past decade I've seen more and more efforts from the government of Pakistan, even the conservation organizations in the professional, and it's been highly recognized by the international communities towards the larger goal of conservation efforts.
I think the realization is the first step to take any action.
Okay.
So that realization is massive in a sense that like we are talking about billions of rupees being invested in this field. So let's be very positive and hope for a very successful program that we're talking about as the plantation. When we talk about plantation, it's not only growing tree. Especially like when you protect certain area, you are protecting the ecosystem.
Yes.
So not trees. The ecosystem will bring everything as part of the ecosystem. The birds will come, or insects will come. So all the entire ecosystem, if it is functional, it will provide you those services, and that is something which has been actually noticed, seen. So I think any program where ecosystem is actually protected or being created or enhanced is a very successful program.
And that brings an important point that not only green tree but the right tree at the right location.
Yes,
exactly.
So again, Dr. knows that under this program, these three organizations and the government of Pakistan have published a smaller document that it communicates that which tree is suitable for which ecosystem.
Exactly.
And anybody, even the common man, can use it for you. So the
long list for every ecosystem.
And nature has its own criteria of accepting and rejecting. So if you plant the right tree, it will accept it. If you don't plant the right tree, so it will be rejected automatically.
Agreed.
And
or it will become a nuisance.
Exactly.
Like paper mulberry that we have.
And certainly, there are trees which we call exotic, but they're not invasive. For the last, hundred of years, that has been internalized in the country. So in certain areas like waterlogged area, or where the people have dependency on that particular enterprise, like the eucalyptus or rubidia, so at limited scale, people are also growing those trees as a means of livelihood for them in their country. But personally, as a conservationist, Dr. Ejaz and government of Pakistan, we are not, encouraging bringing exotic flora, even fauna to the country, and that's not beneficial for the ecosystem.
Yes, you're right. And as we are running short of time, Dr. Ejaz, what is your message on this Environment Day toward your audience?
Well, I think we have already had a very good discussion about the biodiversity and associated aspects. What we see is that the degradation of biodiversity is because of us. And if we need to improve it, it is us who is actually going to do that. Nobody from outside will come. So if we manage our trash, if we manage our waste, if we manage our water, if we manage all the components related to ecosystem, I think we have a good chance of survival. The quality of life will improve. So everything is in our hand. So it's up to us that we want to see a better future, or we want to have like this degraded ecosystem with all the mess around us, with all the garbage around us, with no water. So it's entirely up to us.
You are much right. And Mr. Faiz, what is your message?
And I have a simple message. The biggest resource of Pakistan is the human resource.
Exactly.
Okay? And I sometimes in my communication to the people, I said that we are not planting trees on the land. We should plant a tree in the mind.
Okay.
So my message to all Pakistanis that we are blessed with a very good country, and let's keep it clean and green. participate in the conservation movement, the government of Pakistan and the organization has. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And dear audience, two beautiful messages from two renowned and eminent personalities. And indeed, on this World Environmental Day, what we need to do, we need to have ourselves to make some to be a change maker. And how we can be a change maker? Just want to do something for the betterment of our environment, because it's not just for us, it's not just for our family. Like we keep on cleaning our own houses and we keep on just putting that trash out of our houses, but this country are big house, and how we can clean that, how we can manage that, and how we can manage all the resources that could make this country more progressive, more prosperous, and more beautiful. It depends on upon us. And of course, on this Environment Day, I will, as I always emphasize, and as at the ending of our program, as I always insist, that kindly plant a tree, and a tree that is relevant to the particular area. And we have agriculture, universities, agriculture departments that are working and that have many studies and researches that what kind of an ecosystem that is present in Rawalpindi or Islamabad or in Lahore, in Khoshab, in Jhang, in Sindh, in Balochistan, in KP, or in GB or AJK. So you can just consult those agriculture departments. So they will give you, more relevant information, and they will give you the more relevant sapling, so that you could install that, or you can just plant that, and could make this homeland more beautiful, more greener, more cleaner, and of course be a change maker. With this, dear audience, we are just signing off. Allah Hafiz, Fi Amanillah, and stay blessed.